Welcome to the Coffee in the Barn. I'm Casey Bradley, President and founder of the Swine Group. If you are thinking about entering, changing, advancing, or reinventing your career in the animal science industry, we are here to help you succeed. In each episode, we will cover a variety of topics surrounding work, life, and professional development, leveraging my 20-plus years as a global leader within the livestock industry and my ever-growing professional network to interview other leading professionals. We couldn't do this without our sponsors, NutriQuest, IFF, and Continental Search. Reach out to us on our social media platforms or visit theswineGroup.com and subscribe now not to miss another episode.
Hey guys, it's Marissa Larose, your host for today's episode of Coffee in the Barn. What are you doing today that makes you stand out from others? Back again is Dan Simmons, successful recruiter and keynote speaker, but this time sharing ways to help you stand out in a sea of candidates. This is a highlight from one of our recorded webinars in the Coffee and Careers series, which you can find the link in our show notes. Today we're going to do something a little different. We're going to have a discussion with our founder, Dr. Casey Bradley, and a future graduate looking for a job. They're going to share their takeaways and how this episode applies beyond the job interview process.
This session is developed basically for grad students who are entering the workforce. So there's 10 slides of what they're looking for. The bullet points underneath are how you can stand out to get a better chance of landing the job you really want. But if you're further along in your career, focus on showing the things that you've done professionally instead of academically. What companies are looking for? They're looking for accomplishments and practical experience, internships and team players, practical research and communication skills, presentation skills and follow through, references, and that you're there for the right reasons. These are the 10 things we're going to talk about today. Accomplishments. Show that you get things done. Show that you've gotten things done in your life. Here are some examples of things that a lot of students have done that will show that you can accomplish things. An Eagle Scout. Maybe you were the Dairy Princess. Maybe you won a poster contest, or you were number 3 in a big poster contest. You had scholarship money. Maybe you're Mensa. I'm sure most of the people on this call, Mensa. Or you have athletic achievements. You went to Toastmasters, or you were in leadership in your fraternity or sorority. Now, I will tell you that I've been recruiting for 29 years, and I don't care how old someone is. If they have been an Eagle Scout, I will tell them to put that on their resume. If they've been a Dairy Princess, there is not a Dairy Princess whose resume that I have seen that I have not called the next day. These are people who have accomplished things, who have certain skills and attributes. Look at what you've accomplished and talk about that. We're going to talk about Toastmasters for a moment because the ability to make a good presentation is not something that most people are born with. But there's a group out there that will help you, and some college campuses have their own groups of Toastmasters. I think it costs a whopping $10 to join Toastmasters, and they meet every month or so, and they will develop your stand-up presentation skills, and it will be done in a safe environment. The finest speaker I know, a couple of finest speakers I know, are graduates of Toastmasters. And in that, you will come in and do a 1-minute presentation your first time on the topic of your choice, and then it will be critiqued in a very positive way. And then you do longer and longer sessions as time goes on, and you become a more accomplished speaker. So if you're having trouble with how do I stand up in front of others or how do I build my confidence, Toastmasters is a great way to go. Another thing that companies are looking for is practical experience. They want to hire people who understand what they do, or at least understand who their customers are. Be prepared to discuss applicable part-time jobs you've had, internships you've had, family connections. If you grew up on a farm, or you grew up with your uncle running a butcher shop, or mom worked at Smithfield, or dad worked at Tyson, or practical experience from your research projects. Have these things on your resume if they're applicable. Be able to talk about them. The family connection thing. I'll give you an example. My father worked as the parts manager for car dealerships all his career. I know more about how car dealerships work than most people out there, just because Dad talked about it a lot over the dinner table. Or on the weekends, I would go in and help him set up his parts department when he got a new role. I learned about that and have some albeit now dated experience with that. If you've learned from things around the dinner table, or you worked at the farm down the street, or you had exposure to anywhere in the food chain where you want to be, or something close to it, be able to talk about that. If you grew up on a farm, have that in your cover letter, on your resume. Going to want to see practical experience. You're going to hear me talk about internships. If you're still in school and you can get one, get it. Discuss who, what, when, and how when you're in an interview. Be able to tell a 1-minute story. Yes, I did an internship with Tyson where my job was to check in on the paperwork for quality assurance. I did that last summer down in Arkansas, and my boss was so-and-so, and he's ranked number 1 in Tyson for this. And what we accomplished was we were able to reduce blah, 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 by 4% by doing da, 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 da. And I can take that experience here and be able to show you that I can analyze data well. Be able to talk about what you did and why you did it. Companies like to hire team players. Companies have hired enough problem employees. They don't want to hire anymore. They're looking for people normally that are team players. Be prepared to answer, how would others describe you? Provide examples of successful teamwork in life and school. Show them that you can be fun. I liked him is the first thing most interviewers tell me after a successful candidate interviews. I want to hit a couple things here. If you are a team player, show it. If you are not a team player, don't lie about it. It will bite you in the tail later. If you're not a team player, make sure you are interviewing for a role where you don't have to be a team player. There are roles out there like that. If you're a total introvert and you really don't want to interact with a lot of people during the day, and you don't play well with others, don't get in the sandbox to play with others. You'll just be disruptive and you will get canned. Nobody's smart enough not to get canned if they're that disruptive. So if you are a team player, show it. If you're not a team player, make sure to look for jobs where you're not. Examples of teamwork in life and school, obviously athletics, the marching band, your fraternity, things you may have done in church or social groups where you have interacted, been part of a valuable team there. In decades of interviewing, I can tell you that when I debrief a client after the interview, when I talk with them and I'm looking for, do they have the skills you want? Do they have the soft skills you're looking for? Can they accomplish what you want? And those are the things I go for. And I'll talk to the most sophisticated executives out there. And typically what they start with was, I liked her. Okay. I liked her. They're looking for you to connect with them in the interview. Show that you're a team player. Show that you can be fun and that you would be fun to work with. That will help you stand out in a sea of candidates. Practical research. Companies want to hire people who understand what they do, who their customers are. Discuss your research projects, how the studies are applicable, and the 3 biggest takeaways from your projects. Make sure you're choosing projects that are practical. If you are studying the mating patterns of honeybees, make damn certain there's a market out there for companies that need to hire experts in the mating habits of honeybees. Now, I'm sure that's very important, but you need to find an employer that also believes that. Make sure the projects that you're working on are applicable. I had a candidate recently graduated from, I want to say University of Kentucky or something like that, in beef nutrition with his doctorate degree. And the company that interviewed him said, he's very smart, very personable, but he didn't do anything that's applicable at all. He says, there's nothing that he's done that can be taken out to the field. He says, the university used him. Make sure that the work you're doing is practical. That's what employers are going to be looking for. Academia, that may be a whole different ballgame, but this session is geared toward industry. Communication skills. I have yet to see a professional job in the animal or meat sciences that calls for excellent texting skills. Have not seen it yet. Casey, you like that, huh? Yep, yet to see it. What they want with communication skills, show them that you have excellent verbal communication skills, that you can complete a sentence, that you have good written communication skills. Grammarly, for the love of God, invest in Grammarly. It will make your writing pop.
Can I just say something real quick, Dan?
Absolutely.
That writing is a very lost skill in the majority of us today. You really need to be able to write not just a journal article, but beyond that. And I read so many pieces, sound like you texted it. Incomplete, run on. It is absolutely important that you have that and have maybe a showcase of skills beyond just your thesis. And it doesn't have to be a peer-reviewed journal article.
I'll tell you what, Grammarly is a great tool. It will help you write a better email. It will check your grammar, your punctuation. It will tell you when you've written a sentence poorly and suggest how to rewrite it better. If you're a great writer, fabulous. If you're not, find a tool like Grammarly, because they want to see that you can write well. They want to see that you can talk well. They want to see that you're looking them in the eyes. And they want to see that you have good, solid presentation skills. Let's talk about presentation skills. Present yourself professionally in these ways. Appropriate attire and hygiene. Show up looking good and be dressed appropriately. And ask, what should I wear to this interview? There's nothing wrong with that. Somebody set up the interview. Whoever set up the interview for you, write back, what's appropriate attire here? I recruit for two different for a variety of feed companies, but two of them have very different interviewing styles and very different attire. One of them had a candidate interview on Friday, and he interviewed all the way up the ladder to the CEO. And the CEO was in a sweater and a pair of blue jeans. But if you went to their competitor 100 miles away, you would be expected to be wearing a coat and tie in the interview. Ask if you're going to be touring any place where you should be wearing shoes that are right for that. If you're going someplace and walking a feed mill, you're walking a production facility, you're walking a farm, make sure you know what you should be wearing, particularly on your feet. Show up on time. Somebody in the last session asked me how early is too early to walk in. Anything before 10 minutes, that's too early. Doesn't mean you don't sit in the parking lot for 20 minutes. Another thing about presentation skills, answer questions without telling your life story. Answer the question and shut up. If they wish to know more, they'll ask. But if you ramble and go on and go on and go on and go on, and then tell them about Cousin Sue and Mary Beth, then they're going to get bored really quick. One of the best nutritionists I know was interviewing with one of my clients, and he kept shooting himself in the foot through a series of interviews because he couldn't shut the hell up. He rambled on. Interviews that were supposed to take an hour were taking 2 to 2.5. And he was rambling on. Answer their questions without telling your life story. Look people in the eye. Posture. You'll see that I'm seated erect and respectful. I'm not going to tell you I'm seated like that all day, every day. But when I'm working with you, that's the way I want to be. And be prepared if you're doing a PowerPoint presentation. I had a nutritionist. She'd done pretty well in the phone interview. She had about 5 years experience and went to do a stand-up presentation as part of her interview with this client. 10 people in the conference room. She does a pretty good presentation until they get to the question and answer period, and they started asking her about the numbers that she had in her presentation. And someone was clever enough to have figured out that the numbers she was showing didn't add up. And her presentation fell apart totally because her research wasn't presented right. She lost the job based upon not having double-checked her PowerPoint presentation. So if you're going to be prepared to do that, make sure everything is right. Go through it a time or two, like I did for this presentation, to be comfortable with it. And make sure you have a backup on a thumb drive, maybe two. Follow through. Follow through is a lost art. Detail orientation and follow through are highly sought after skills. Show that you have them. Thank you notes by email or social media to everyone you meet. If you get a business card or have an email address, use email. Paper and pencil, yeah, that's fine. That'll be all right, but knock it out the next day with email. Connect to the people that you meet on social media, particularly LinkedIn. It shows that you care. Let's talk about references for a minute. If you say you're good, you might be. But if respected leaders and professionals say you're good, then you are. Let's take that again. If you say you're good, maybe you're good. But if enough other people say you're good, everyone will believe it because you are. Get recommendations on LinkedIn. Bring letters of recommendation from applicable employers, particularly where you've had an internship. Bring letters of reference from professors who know you well. Character references are okay too, but I really want things that are applicable to work. The right reasons. Do you see the smile on her face? You know why she's smiling? Because she's doing the right job in the right environment. She's happy in her work. Make sure you've taken the position for the right reasons, that you're interviewing for the position because it's one that you want. Companies want to hire someone who want to have a career with them, not just someone who wants a job. I've got my BS, I've got my MS, now I want a JOB. No, find a career. Interview where you want to work. Interview for jobs for which you are qualified and you would enjoy. Not just that you can do, but that you would enjoy doing. This is where you're going to spend the bulk of your waking hours. Make sure it's something you're going to enjoy doing. Before you talk about money or think about money, consider location. Is the job located where I really want to live? Because if not, you'll leave. Is the travel appropriate? If you're someone who prefers to eat their dinner at their dining room table every night and sleep on their pillow, make sure you're not getting a job that has 50-60% overnight travel. You'll leave. Make sure the shift is right or that the work schedule fits. Make sure there's a career path that's one that you want to take. I talked with somebody yesterday who's with one of the major corporations in agriculture, and he said, the reason I'm looking to leave is that the next step up is not one that I want to take, and I've been here 4 years, and I don't want the next role. Okay, he's got a good career. We can find him another position, but his employer's not going to like that fact. Make sure you're with a company culture that fits. Some people are fast-paced, can adapt to change well, can communicate well with others, can think on their feet. An entrepreneurial company is probably a great place for them. Others need to have tried and true processes, need to have documentation for what they need to do, like for things to change slowly, something a little more bureaucratic, not necessarily more established, but a culture that is more firm would be right for them. Think about the company culture and how you're going to fit into that, whether you're going to be comfortable. Then think about money. Money is the easiest thing to negotiate. The mint prints money every day. There's more and more money out there. Don't worry about money as much as location, travel, shift, career path, and most importantly, culture. People get hired for what they can do. They get fired for who they are. If you're a square peg and the company's all round holes, you're not going to last. Make sure you're going to a place where you fit. Okay, let's wrap up. How to stand out when interviewing. Bring letters of recommendation. Explain why you want the job and what you've done in the past to fit. Research the potential employer and the people you meet. It's never been easier to find out about a professional. Go to LinkedIn. Go to the company's website. Understand who it is that you're meeting with, what they've done, what their career looks like. Connect to them. Be able to discuss your practical experience and research. Look them in the eye. Show them that you can do more than text. Prepare and follow up exceptionally well. Quantify how you've prepared for this career. It's not just, hey, this is what I want to do, and blah, blah, blah. No, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this to bring me here today. Practice your PowerPoint presentation in front of others and check your data. Dress appropriately and carry yourself professionally. Have great questions ready for them.
Well, Marissa, it was kind of interesting to hear Dan talk about how to stand out in a sea of candidates for a job interview, hunting for a job. But I think some of my key takeaways, what I've learned in a lot of discussions from Coffee and Careers in Animal Science, is that you're always job interviewing. You're always making that impression on other people. What were some of your takeaways?
Some of my takeaways from Dan's presentation were things that I didn't really necessarily think of prior to listening to him give the talk. I think one of the main things is he kind of highlighted leveraging your accomplishments, and that's something that I don't think is always expressed. A lot of people say, oh, don't put things on your resume that are from high school, but I think some of those accomplishments really highlight who you are as a person and what exactly you've accomplished in life and what you have the ability to accomplish.
I think you make some good points, and some of us who have had lower self-esteem or find us a team player don't like to brag. Like, I do not like to brag. And so I've had a lot of people look at my resume even, 20 years into my career and says, that's great, you told me what you did, but what impact did you make? And I think that's kind of where he was going is, what impact have you made? And managers want to know, are you going to be a driver? Are you going to bring impact to my team? Or are you just going to be dead weight and just there for a job? And I think it's maybe you don't have to be involved in 100 different activities, because I've read resumes for scholarships, for instance, from different college students, and I'm like, wow, do they have time to breathe? Do they have time to sleep? Because it's jam packed with different things they're doing. And I think that can be also a turnoff in my mind is when I look at resumes and I see it jam packed that 3 or 4 different clubs and great grades and a job and all this. And I'm wondering, are they going to get burned out? Or maybe it's a job and things are progressing slowly when they first get started. Are they going to be satisfied with the pace we have? And because it's going to take you a while to adjust to a career. So some of those things is a fine balance of showcasing really what you did, but impacts. And I use this as an example. So let's take my job at AB Vista. If I wrote it in the old style traditional resume format, I was a technical service representative for AB Vista servicing customers in the US and Canada. Some of my things that I've done within that career. So some of the skills, database management, ingredient quality, NIR technology, presentations, research trials, things like that. That's what I would write. That's what I did. But really, when I flipped it and said my impact, so this is changing how I would say that, I did all those things, but literally I led a team so let's take the NIR example. So I conducted a 3-year corn quality survey covering over 40 mills in the US and distributed the data of our corn quality that included over 1,000 corn samples from the US to all of our customers in North America. Impact, right? I managed a collection process with 40 different feed mills and I distributed over, we collected 1,000 samples. And then you can say the sales. Well, through my team's effort and being part of this team, we became the number 2 phytase in North America. And I can't remember the year, but we were probably the number 1 phytase in swine in North America for that year. And that was that impact, right? So we took, probably being number 4 in the phytase market. And with my limited time there, not all me, but my team, right? We stepped up and we really drove those sales, those customer relationships. And then I also want to put in there that my key accounts that I managed as a technical service manager was over 1 million, 2 million sows, if you consider some of those impacts of my customers. So those are the type of numbers and the impact that in your resume should contain. Who did you do an internship with in the summer on the sow farm?
I interned with US Mark, so the USDA.
So yeah, pretty incredible. I mean, and you can kind of, maybe you worked on a grant. Do you know how much that grant was worth? So it's things like that. If you did research like that, that's a good example. What's my impact? And that was another impact is I looked at somebody looking at my resume. If I wanted to go back in academia, they said, well, hey, I don't have a lot of peer published journal articles and I don't have a lot of grants. And they said, well, really, because I couldn't publish, right? When you do private research within a company, a lot of that stuff doesn't get published. But I was managing $300,000 to $500,000 research budgets a year. And that's that impact that you talk about. So taking those examples of, if you looked at my CV, you see a lot of writing, but not a lot of peer-reviewed journal articles. But if you put in there, I'm consistently managed a $500,000 research budget every year, that's a big deal. And if you put it in there a way, like some of those research projects that I got at DSM as an innovation manager, those are internal type grants. So I had to propose my idea, I had to push it through, I funded a graduate student. Those are impacts. Like, what did I do? How did I connect? What did that do to our business? And so think about that in your different things that you've done in school. But I'm going to take that a step further, okay? I'm talking for 20 years in job experience that I need to change how my resume goes. But how can you apply this to Marissa to your life? Because do you feel like this last year your externship with the Sunswine Group and learning how to network and things, do you feel like you're being interviewed or recruited all the time?
I would say every connection I've made, especially through this externship, which involves a lot of relationships with people who are in the same field of study as I am, seasoned professionals, young professionals. Every time I connect with a new person, I never know what that could end up leading to. So I definitely think it's in my best interest to always present myself in a way that maybe they're taking what I'm saying and they're like, would she be a good fit for our company? Would she be a good fit for my team? And even just in a personal conversation, I mean, expressing who you are, I think, as a person, maybe you don't even jump into the professional things, but then being able to define what they think of you as a person or make an impact, make an impression on them of who you are as a person can really help you in the long run.
And I'm just taking this from, we're developing a program here and we're going to focus Let's Grow Together, a new program coming out by the Sun Swine Group, some group coaching and professional development series that we're going to be conducting. And just putting this materials together is everybody, we call it self-leadership. And how do you lead yourself before you can lead others? And just listening to some of this feedback and the videos so far, the content I'm putting together for this training program, is you have to think about it, that you're making an impression, you're influencing people every day. And if they don't see the good version of you, they won't recommend you for a new opportunity. Either that's in the company you're with today for a promotion or a different type of role or more control or more power or whatever, more responsibility, however we want to talk about that. If you can't lead yourself, if you're not leaving that good impression today, then those opportunities are not going to come your way. And that's the same thing as a student. If you're going to scientific meetings and you're just talking to your 2 or 3 lab buddies and you're not trying to connect to other professionals, well, it may be difficult for you to get a job because nobody knows who you are. But I guarantee you, watching Marissa work trade shows this last year, getting to know her, there's a lot of people who know who Marissa is. And there's a lot of people asking her, where's she going? How's the job hunt going? They already know she stands out in that sea of candidates. What are you doing to stand out? Either you're looking for a job, or you're looking for more responsibility, or you're looking for that next promotion. Really need to consider how you're standing out and how you're leading yourself to be that shining star that I know you can all be.
Today we have with us Brittany Woods, a senior at Oklahoma State University studying animal science, as well as an extern with the Sun Swine Group for this spring. And Brittany, we'd just like to talk to you about some of your takeaways from the episode. So if I can ask, what was your biggest takeaway from this episode?
My biggest takeaway from this episode, I think, was the questions that you can ask to the interviewers, especially because you kind of get nervous and want to think of a good question on the spot, but it definitely helped me have a list of questions that I could go off of and make my own. It also will set me apart in knowing that I can ask those kind of deep questions instead of thinking that they're too deep or could be too harsh in a way to ask those questions. So that definitely helped me know that I can ask those broader questions.
Was there anything in the episode that gave you a new perspective or made you think of something in a different way that you hadn't before?
Definitely the way they talked about accomplishments. I have a lot of accomplishments that I have tried to succeed in my life, and I definitely have a few that I believe set me apart, and that kind of let me take a step back and be like, wow, I can really be proud of these accomplishments and kind of brag about them in a way, but not brag about them to where it makes you sound selfish. It's just something that was like, okay, wow, maybe when I do graduate in May, those people that I do get interviews with will see that, and I'm excited for that.
Right. And I think something going off that is, everybody has a different perspective on like what you should show off. And like when it comes to accomplishments, some people have the opinion that maybe you should take stuff off of your accomplishments that maybe you got in high school, or maybe a scholarship that you got going into like your freshman year of college. But I think it's definitely really good to like leverage those accomplishments and show off what you've done outside of school or even within school. So I definitely think it can show off different characteristics and experiences that you may not be able to show through like work experience.
For sure. And especially before coming into college, because a lot of us do a lot of stuff in high school that lays a little path for you in college. So you kind of definitely got to look at the whole spectrum of what you've done.
So there's one thing from this episode that you can implement into your life or into maybe your next interview. What would that one thing be?
I think the numbers spectrum of what they brought up, to put numbers into your resume, I kind of have a really hard time with that because I get nervous of trying to bring my science side into my resume, if that makes sense. Maybe implementing more, showing the statistics of what I could put into my resume of stuff that I have done and participated in, or even just branching out into a new part of me that I don't show off. So that was definitely something, just kind of like taking a step back and looking at myself from a different perspective of what I can really apply to a job in a different way.
Yeah, and I think coming back to the numbers thing is like, that's a great way to like show some of the things you accomplished within a job or an internship, like hard evidence that you came and you did something. So I think it's a great way to look at it.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you for joining us for this discussion today. Do you have any last minute comments?
I think just kind of maybe advice for anybody that is going into any interview, just put your shoulders back and smile and be confident in who you are and be true to who you are, because a company is going to realize that.
Awesome. Thanks, Brittany.
Thank you.
So after hearing from Dan, Casey, and Brittany, what are your takeaways? How are you going to stand out in a sea of candidates?
We hope that you enjoyed this discussion. You can watch the replay of this webinar, along with the rest of our webinar replays, on our YouTube channel, Animal Science Office Hours. And now we would like to also thank our sponsors once again, NutriQuest, IFF, and Continental Search. We are gracious that you support us in this journey. Before we go, are you finding it difficult to create your own version of success? Do you even know what success looks like for you? Well, if you don't, I suggest that you reach out to the SunSwine Group by visiting our website and booking your free next steps. We'll discuss your career and how the SunSwine Group can help you navigate that. Because our model is simple. We make pigs and dreams fly. Our mission is to share knowledge, to mentor future leaders, and transform innovation while creating a neural network of expertise to help any person, including you, any animal, or any company succeed. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to check out our socials. Find us on Facebook and LinkedIn at Coffee and Careers in Animal Science, or Instagram at coffee.and.careers. And remember, life is short. Drink your coffee in the barn.